Greetings, explorers of the shadows and seekers of hidden truth. You are now at the portal of the unknown, where secrets forgotten by time are brought back to light, challenging everything we think we know. Here, the curtains of mystery are drawn back, and history, with all its layers of concealment and revelation, unfolds before our eyes. Every word, every discovery has the power to transform the way we see the world around us. This is a space where the impossible becomes possible, where the oldest questions gain new answers, and where the deepest truths await those brave enough to uncover them. As we walk through this portal, you will be guided along paths of knowledge that have been left behind by humanity, covered by the dust of time, and now at last are yours for the taking. These are the untraveled roads, the unanswered questions, the mysteries that remain unsolved. The journey you are about to embark on is not for the faint of heart, for it demands courage to question, to go beyond conventional answers, and to delve into what many prefer to ignore. What lies hidden in the shadows? What secrets are kept by the ancients, buried in the pages of forgotten books or in the ruins of lost civilizations? If you have the audacity to seek, the portal of the unknown is your guide. In this space, every exploration is an invitation to look closer at what's around us, to see what many fail to notice. Truth is often hidden in small, seemingly insignificant details. But for those who know where to look, it reveals itself in all its depth. Perhaps the answers you seek are closer than you think, waiting for a sharp eye, for a bold question. What awaits you is not just a journey of discovery, but a transformation of perspective, a shift in how you see reality and history. So, prepare yourself, because the adventure begins now. At the portal of the unknown, truth is not something found easily, but once revealed, it changes everything. The answers are here, between the lines of time, in the echoes of lost civilizations, and they are for those who seek, those who are not satisfied with the obvious, with the superficial. Are you ready to explore the deepest mysteries, to go where few dare to? Then continue the journey with us, because the secrets of the past are about to be unveiled, and what you discover may challenge everything you thought you knew about the world. Today, we dive into the mysteries of the Dead Sea Scrolls, texts hidden for centuries in the caves of Qumran, waiting patiently to be uncovered like lost fragments of the past, carrying with them the key to understanding a turbulent period in human history. But before we delve into the words contained in these ancient manuscripts, it's essential to ask, who were the figures responsible for guarding these precious writings? Who were those who considered these sacred texts so important that, in an act of courage or desperation, they hid them in the caves of Qumran, away from the eyes of the empire and subsequent generations? The answer leads us to the Essenes, a mystical and highly disciplined community that settled in the desert regions of Judea, a society shrouded in mystery, composed of individuals who saw the world not merely as a stage for events, but as a battlefield where good and evil, light and darkness, were in constant conflict. The Essenes believed that humanity was trapped in a cycle of corruption that prevented it from understanding the true nature of the spiritual world. To them, the world was plunged into darkness, and most people were blindly immersed in sin and ignorance. Only a select group of people, those chosen and purified, could access the truth hidden from the eyes of the rest. These individuals, in their view, had the duty to preserve sacred knowledge and pass it on to those who, in turn, could comprehend the deeper mysteries of human and divine existence. It was a mission that allowed no room for failure, and to ensure that their writings and teachings did not fall into the wrong hands, the Essenes hid their texts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls, in remote caves, as a measure of protection against destruction and corruption. The Essenes were not merely a religious sect, but a community of strict discipline, dedicated to study, prayer, and distancing themselves from the luxuries and distractions of the material world. They lived under a rigid set of purity laws that permeated all aspects of their lives, from daily rituals to how they interacted with one another. Their focus was not only on religious practice, but also on a deep understanding of spiritual mysteries, many of which were recorded in the texts we now call the Dead Sea Scrolls. These writings, for the most part, are a collection of religious, biblical, and non-biblical texts that provide a unique insight into the Essenes' thought, beliefs, and practices, as well as a distinctive perspective on the Hebrew scriptures, messianism, and the events surrounding the end of the Second Temple era. For the Essenes, the study and preservation of these texts were not only acts of devotion, but also acts of resistance. They believed they were fulfilling a crucial role in preserving true divine wisdom, knowledge that had been distorted or corrupted by other religious groups and the Roman Empire that dominated the region. To the Essenes, the struggle against the forces of darkness was a sacred mission, and every act of preservation, every copy made, every passage studied was a small victory over evil. This view of spiritual warfare permeated their writings and lives, and their texts reveal a religious fervor and dedication to the truth that still resonates today, long after the disappearance of this enigmatic community. But the question remains, what can we learn from the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls? What do these ancient texts, carefully preserved and now revealed to the world, have to tell us about our own time? In a world that often seems divided between the forces of light and darkness, as the Essenes saw it, are we also trapped in a cycle of corruption, blind to the truth that surrounds us? The Essenes challenge us to question what is true and what is false, to look beyond the surface, and to seek the deeper knowledge and understanding that can free us from the chains of ignorance. Their legacy is an invitation to introspection and vigilance, reminding us that the battle between light and darkness is not just an ancient metaphor, but a continuous struggle that must be fought within each of us. The portal of the unknown, as a link between the past and the present, invites us to move forward, to explore these forgotten truths, and perhaps in them find the key to our own awakening. The scrolls reveal teachings that echo warnings from the Bible itself, as if we are standing before a timeless message, waiting to be heard. In Isaiah 43, we read, "A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God." This passage of profound importance not only resonated in the words of the prophets, but was also central to the Essene community, who saw themselves as forerunners of a new era, separated from the corrupted world. For the Essenes, the words of Isaiah were not just an isolated verse, but a deep call to a way of life set apart from the world around them. Their vision was of humanity trapped in a cycle of corruption, a people lost in chaos, desperately in need of a new path, a new direction. Just as the prophet cried out in the wilderness, announcing the need to prepare the way for the Lord, the Essenes believed their mission was precisely this, to prepare themselves and the world for the manifestation of divine truth, through a life devoted to purity, to the study of the scriptures, and to the strict adherence to spiritual laws. The desert, for the Essenes, was not merely a geographical location but a state of mind. They saw themselves as those living in a spiritual wilderness, seeking to reverse the degradation of humanity. For them, the way of the Lord could not be prepared amidst the distractions and corruptions of the world. It was necessary to step outside the secular system and, in a sense, isolate themselves so they could purify their souls and, through this purity, bring forth the knowledge that would save those willing to listen and understand. Separation, withdrawal, and the search for a space where the sacred could be preserved and the true word of God could be understood without the distortions imposed by society were central pillars of the Essene community. They believed that the world needed to be rebuilt in a way that the true divine revelation could be fully accessed without interference. They saw themselves as guardians of a lost knowledge, an ancient wisdom that, if preserved and transmitted correctly, could bring about spiritual rebirth and ultimately the restoration of humanity's relationship with God. This vision of separation and preparation is a fundamental part of the legacy left by the Essenes, and the Dead Sea Scrolls offer a glimpse of how they lived out this belief. Their writings and teachings reflect a fervent expectation of a new time, a time of redemption, which for them would not come through assimilation into the corrupt system of society, but through a radical return to the purity and truth of God. The texts now uncovered reveal a call to something deeper, something more authentic, and confront us with the need to examine our own relationship with the world around us. The paradox, perhaps, is that while the Essenes physically separated themselves from the world, their mission was precisely for the world. Their message of preparation for the way of the Lord was, in a sense, a universal message. It was not limited to those who shared their faith or way of life, but was a warning that echoed to all, regardless of time or place. The wilderness they cried out in was not only a metaphor for solitude and withdrawal, but also a symbol of the spiritual condition of man, who must undergo a process of purification and transformation before he can embrace the true divine revelation. This lesson from the Essenes challenges us in ways that go beyond mere historical or religious study. In times when corruption and moral confusion seem to be the norm, what can we learn from this call to prepare the way of the Lord? Are we, like them, being called to separate from a world that has strayed from the truth? Or are we part of a larger movement to return to that which is pure and true? The scrolls invite us to reflect on these questions, to look inward, and perhaps to question what is needed to prepare our own hearts for the revelation of the divine in our lives. But what do these texts mean for us? Why does the story of these ancient manuscripts and the people who preserved them still echo today? The answer may lie in the very nature of what these writings represent: a testimony of resistance, a call to those who refuse to conform to the world and who recognize that humanity's corruption follows a repetitive cycle. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not merely relics of a forgotten religious sect. They are, in fact, a mirror of the eternal struggle between light and darkness, between truth and illusion. They speak of a people who rejected the ways of the powerful, who distanced themselves from the dominant society because they saw it as a system given over to decadence, injustice, and a growing distance from God. The Essenes sought purity while the world around them descended into corruption. To them, society was not just morally bankrupt, but spiritually lost. They saw even the Temple of Jerusalem, which was meant to be a sacred place, as something profaned, controlled by religious leaders who had bowed to Roman rule and earthly ambitions. This conflict led them to make a radical decision: to completely abandon the world and live in isolation, waiting for the final judgment. The idea of a complete separation between the righteous and the wicked was deeply ingrained in their faith, and their texts reflect this mindset. They saw themselves as the sons of light, those chosen to understand divine mysteries, while the rest of humanity walked blindly toward its own destruction. If we compare this to our days, are we not living a reflection of the same dilemma? Look around. We see a society that idolizes materialism, where morality is often discarded in favor of power and convenience. Corruption, both political and spiritual, spreads, and many seem indifferent to the signs that indicate something is wrong. Truth has become relative, sacred values are mocked, and those who try to live righteously are often seen as outdated or even a threat to progress. In Matthew 24:37, Jesus warns us, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." This statement carries deep meaning because it refers to an era of increasing moral decline, where humanity had strayed so far from God that judgment became inevitable. In Noah's days, people continued their lives as if nothing was happening, ignoring the signs, until destruction came suddenly. This warning aligns with the teachings of the Essenes, for they too believed that the world was on the brink of great judgment, and thus prepared for what they called the Great Separation, the moment when the righteous would be rewarded and the wicked condemned. The Essene belief in imminent judgment was more than just a prophecy. It was the foundation of their existence. They lived with extreme discipline, following strict rules of purity and behavior, believing that only those who were spiritually prepared would survive what was to come. Their texts describe cosmic battles between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, a spiritual war that would determine the fate of the world. To them, the time to choose a side was running out, and those who remained in darkness would face an inevitable fate. Now think about this. Could we be living in a similar time? Are we approaching a moment of separation where those who seek the truth will be tested, while the rest of the world continues in its spiritual blindness? Just as the Essenes saw the system around them collapsing, we can see today's world growing increasingly unstable, where the very foundations of society are being questioned, and the search for the true meaning of existence becomes more urgent. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not just records of a distant past. They are a warning a testimony that humanity always reaches a breaking point where it must choose between remaining in ignorance or awakening to a greater reality. The Essenes prepared for judgment, and the question remains, are we preparing as well? Ignoring the signs may be easy, but the truth always finds a way to reveal itself to those who dare to seek it. Among the texts discovered, there are prophecies of war, visions of a Messiah, and descriptions of celestial battles that go beyond mere symbolism, revealing a deep understanding of the spiritual conflict that governs the fate of humanity. The War Scroll, one of the most intriguing Dead Sea Scrolls, presents astonishing details about an apocalyptic confrontation between the Sons of Light and the Sons of Darkness. This text does not merely depict an earthly war, but describes a battle that transcends the physical realm and unfolds in the invisible plane, where cosmic forces fight for ultimate dominion. The way this conflict is portrayed seems to directly echo the words of Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. The Sons of Light, according to the Essenes, represented those who lived in holiness, who sought the truth, and who remained faithful to divine laws. To them, the final battle was not just a war between nations or earthly armies, but a cosmic event in which the forces of good, guided by a supreme power, would face the Sons of Darkness, a group formed by those who had strayed from the truth, corrupted by worldly influences, and dominated by malevolent entities. These writings suggest that the fate of humanity is directly tied to this invisible battle, which is already unfolding behind the scenes of the reality we know. The connection between the War Scroll and the passage from Ephesians cannot be ignored. The Apostle Paul warned of a spiritual war that goes beyond human conflicts, cautioning that the true struggle is against principalities and powers, invisible forces operating behind historical events, manipulating leaders, and leading humanity away from the path of light. The Essenes seemed to share this vision. The world was under the rule of darkness, but this domination would not last forever. At the appointed time, the great battle would take place, and justice would prevail. Interestingly, the War Scroll details the structure of this combat, predicting that the Sons of Light would be led by a Messiah, a warrior-anointed figure who would guide the righteous in the final battle. This messianic leader would be the instrument of divine victory, liberating the earth from evil influence and restoring sacred order. To the Essenes, this was an unquestionable truth, and their expectation of the coming Messiah shaped every aspect of their lives. They did not see the future as an uncertain territory, but as an inevitable outcome, an ending already written, waiting for the right moment to unfold. This apocalyptic vision aligns with many other prophecies found throughout the scriptures. From Daniel to the Book of Revelation, we see constant references to this final war, where spiritual forces clash for the fate of the world. The Essenes, with their isolated and pure lifestyle, believed they were preparing for this grand event, waiting for the call to take their place among the Sons of Light. But the question that arises is this war still happening? Are we, like the Essenes believed, still immersed in this great spiritual conflict? If we look at the world around us, we see signs indicating that this battle is not just an ancient myth. Corruption, manipulation, distortion of truth, and the growing rejection of divine principles suggest that the forces of darkness are still at work, silently leading humanity away from the light. The struggle described in Ephesians and the War Scroll is not limited to a future event, but may be happening at this very moment in ways we do not fully perceive. The difference is that today, this war does not manifest with swords and visible armies, but in the realm of ideas, culture, politics, and even spirituality. The Dead Sea Scrolls, therefore, are not merely historical records of a people who lived thousands of years ago. They are a warning, a missing piece of the puzzle that helps us understand that this struggle has never ended. The Sons of Light and the Sons of Darkness still exist, and their battle continues to influence the course of history. The question we must ask ourselves is, which side are we on? Are we paying attention to the signs, preparing like the Essenes, or are we being blinded by the darkness spreading around us, spreading unaware that the battle is taking place? The War Scroll challenges us to see beyond the physical world and recognize that something much greater is at stake. It reminds us that every choice, every belief, and every action positions us on one side of this great conflict. Just as the Essenes awaited their warrior Messiah, many today await the return of the one who will bring ultimate justice. But until that moment arrives, the battle continues, unseen, relentless, and closer than we imagine. The Essenes disappeared, but they left behind their teachings, embedded in the scrolls hidden for centuries in the caves of Qumran. Their desire for purity and separation from the world resonates deeply with those who today seek answers beyond what is shown to the masses, beyond what is accepted as absolute truth. But were they right? Is the only way to attain enlightenment to withdraw from the world, or must the true battle for truth be fought in the midst of the crowd, where corruption and deception are in full force? This is a question that echoes through time, and the Dead Sea Scrolls may hold clues to the answer. The Essenes believed that the world was irreversibly corrupted, and that the only way to preserve spiritual purity was to isolate themselves. They saw society as a territory dominated by darkness, an environment where truth was suffocated by greed, lust, and power. This view was not unfounded. History proves that the pursuit of power has always been intertwined with the distortion of truth. Rulers manipulate narratives, spiritual leaders twist teachings, and most of humanity becomes trapped in a carefully constructed illusion. Given this, the Essenes' decision to withdraw and live autonomously, awaiting the moment of judgment, seems logical. However, was this strategy enough? Did the knowledge they preserved have the impact they intended? The Qumran scrolls are more than ancient relics. They are fragments of lost knowledge, echoes of a spiritual struggle that spans the ages. Within them, we find messages of warning, prophecies about a Messiah, descriptions of battles between light and darkness, and rituals intended to prepare the chosen ones for what was to come. The very discovery of these scrolls seems like a prophetic event, as if, at a certain moment in history, it became necessary to recover these words so that the world could understand the signs that were right before its eyes. But are we ready to decipher these enigmas? Can we comprehend the message that the Essenes sought to preserve? Many of the Essenes' beliefs echo teachings that centuries later would appear in the words of Jesus Christ. The idea that the world is in a state of corruption, the need for spiritual transformation, and the coming of a divine kingdom are recurring themes in both the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Gospels. But there is a fundamental difference. While the Essenes chose total separation, Jesus and his disciples walked among sinners, bringing the truth into the heart of corruption, directly challenging the powerful and confronting deception where it was most deeply rooted. This contrast raises a crucial question. What is the true path for those who seek the truth? Is it isolation, or is it the direct confrontation with darkness? If we analyze current events, we will see that humanity remains trapped in the same cycle that the Essenes described. Technological advancements have brought progress, but they have also amplified control over information. Truth has become a battlefield where those who attempt to expose it are silenced, ridiculed, or marginalized. The world remains divided between those who prefer a comfortable illusion and those who dare to see beyond the veil. The Dead Sea Scrolls may serve as a warning that this war has never ended, and perhaps will never end until the final judgment arrives. But what if hidden within these ancient texts lies the key to understanding the events unfolding before us? What if the Essenes, by preserving these writings, were leaving a message for future generations, a map for those who wish to escape the grand deception? If that is the case, ignoring these texts could mean losing a unique opportunity to decipher the secrets that govern the fate of the world. After all, the battle between light and darkness continues. But the question remains, which side are we on? If you wish to continue this journey into the unknown, subscribe to the Portal of the Unknown, leave your like, share this knowledge with others who seek the truth, and comment your theories below. The story is not yet complete, and the secrets still whisper to those who dare to listen. Are you ready to go even deeper